we feel like we're living our life. Let's face it, life these days is going incredibly fast. It's April. It's almost the end of April. Can you believe it? We can never get caught up and never win, it seems, especially in the area of weight. Today's Thin Thinking episode is part 3 of our exploration into different weight masters and the decisions that they made that allowed them to finally make changes for good. This is all part of this spring 2024 enrollment of the 30-day shift weight mastery process led by me that has opened its doors only for a short time. Now, Julie Traynor not only released a significant amount of weight that she has been struggling with for a long time, but she made the decision to finally get ahead of her life and set it up for success so that she could be successful for good. And in her journey, her partner was also inspired by Julie's success and decided to join her as well in living a healthy lifestyle. So join us and learn more about Julie's decision to set herself up for success and also hear about all the wonderful things that followed. So bring your blankie and come on in. Did you know that our struggle with weight doesn't start with the food on your plate or get fixed in the gym? 80% of our weight struggle is mental. That's right. The key to unlocking long-term weight release and management begins in your mind. Hi there, I'm Rita Black. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, weight loss expert, best-selling author, and the creator of the Shift Weight Mastery process. And not only have I helped thousands of people over the past 20 years achieve long-term weight mastery, I am also a former weight struggler, carb addict, and binge eater. And after 2 decades of failed diets and fad weight loss programs, I lost 40 pounds with the help of hypnosis. Not only did I release all that weight, I have kept it off for 25 years. Enter the Thin Thinking podcast where you too will learn how to remove the mental roadblocks that keep you struggling. I'll give you the thin thinking tools, skills, and insights to help you develop the mindset you need, not only to achieve your ideal weight, but to stay there long term and live your best life. Hello, you beautiful person. I don't know about you, but my goodness, it's been a big week. And I just feel like April is spinning by like March did, like February and like January. And we all signed like broke written records because we're all saying it. But what has happened to life is just going by so quickly. I don't know if it's my age. I don't know if it's the digital era. Maybe it's a combination of all of these things. I don't know, or life since the pandemic just seems to have taken on an extra speedy pace. I don't know. But I'm in the middle of teaching a number of free master classes, and the 30-day shift weight mastery process is enrolling in now. So life is really full for me, but I love it, and I have so much fun teaching. I love teaching the free master classes, and I also love teaching the live shift weight mastery process. So if you're listening to this podcast the week it drops, this is the week of April, I have to think about this, April 16th to 20th, 2024, please head to the show notes and sign up for the free masterclass or check out the link to the Shift Weight Mastery process. We're going to be exploring in that free masterclass those subconscious roadblocks that keep us struggling, and we'll also be doing some weight release hypnosis. And we're also going to get your mind primed and ready for that next level of weight mastery. Because I think the more and more I see it, the more and more I see that people's subconscious minds kind of stop at a certain place and they don't know how to go further. And so we're going to look at how to get that subconscious mind used to going further than what you've been used to, because we get stuck in that go so far, stop, start over, go so far, stop, start over. We got to break through that. And you can absolutely do that, but you've got to use your mind differently. So come find out how. The links are in the masterclass, and I think we're like down to our last few seats. So please hurry up. I want you there. And if you are curious about that 30-day shift weight mastery process with hypnosis, coaching, and meditation every day for 30 days for a real deep and profound breakthrough. I had to have a breakthrough and moving my tongue there. I only teach this process 2 times a year because I give 150% of myself during this time because I want every single person in it transformed. And it wears me out, but I love it. And so I feel completely like at the end of the process, like a sponge that's been wrung out completely. But it's the best feeling in the world. And my students fill me back up again with all of their transformation and spirit. And it's a really powerful, gosh, it's like a magic process. I feel it's so magical because so many people are going through it together. And even if you're not a group person, you just kind of catch the inspiration, and it's incredibly motivating for those of you who are like, I can't do this on my own. I can't, this is a great process to be in with a bunch of incredibly generous people. Are so generous in this process. I have 40 coaches also joining who have so much inspiration and motivation and generosity. And in fact, today's guest, Julie Trainer, is one of those coaches. So check out the link in the show notes. And you're going to love her interview because not only does Julie get into her own journey, but walks through the experience of having a partner who isn't necessarily on board at first. That kind of vulnerable time we get in when the person in our life is so used to us kind of self-sabotaging or co-sabotaging, because a lot of times we'll kind of pig out with our partner and it becomes an intimacy thing. So it's kind of hard to navigate those waters. So Julie kind of walks through how she got her partner on board, released 35 pounds, is feeling great, like she's got a new lease on life, and just setting herself up for success. So let's dive in and join Julie now. Well, hello, Julie. Thank you for joining us all here on the Thin Thinking podcast. I've been really looking forward to our interview today.
Thank you, Rita. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, it's so fun because we were talking about before we turned on the audio. I'm staring at Julie. Julie has the most amazing head of purple hair, and I'm very jealous. I'm now thinking, okay, I'll stop dyeing my hair, let my white roots grow out, and I'm going to dye it pink or red. Maybe that's so bold. And we were talking about, well, we're going to get to that. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. So Julie is a shifter who has had an incredible journey. She's been through a lot lately. And Julie, I'll just let you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, where you live and what, how long you've been shifting, all of that kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So I live in Monroe Falls, Ohio, but I am a native Los Angeles gal.
Woohoo!
I've been here about 32 years. Um, I've been overweight for pretty much my whole adult life. The most I ever weighed was 205 when I was in my 30s, raising a little kid in an unhappy marriage. Um,
Mm,
and then when I met my partner, Leslie, well, my wife, Leslie, I lost like 25 pounds. So I was like right around the 170, 180, but just in the last couple of years, I went through a lot with the pandemic. I lost both my parents. I put on weight because, stress.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, just eating was like and cocktails were very important during the pandemic too.
Oh my God, cocktails.
That
If we had all invested in Jim Beam and with Tangeray, yeah.
right, it was rum and coke, rum and diet coke for me, and to this day I cannot drink anything with rum in it because
Oh,
I
because
just
you just overdid it. It was just
I
like,
overdid. But yeah, I was taking care of my mom in the middle of the pandemic, and then my dad died the next year, and then we had to sell their house, and so it was just a lot. And I noticed myself just I don't know, kind of resolved that, well, you know what, I'm just going to be overweight, whatever, it's fine. I also had a job that I really didn't like. I had a corporate job that I was an
Mm.
insurance underwriter, and I hated corporate life. So I was able to actually leave that after my parents passed due to circumstances like selling their house in LA, blah, blah, blah. So that was a huge, huge, huge gift. I got to leave that job.
Oh,
And
how wonderful.
yeah, because I would sit all day and I'd be at my computer and I'd be stressed and I would eat. And, people bring gack into the office,
Oh, yeah.
um, so there was that. And then, but what happened to me about 6 months ago was my best friend invited me to go to Key West with her for her 60th birthday. And she said, Julie, the water's going to be cold. So I'm going to get a wetsuit. And I think you should get a wetsuit too. And I was like, no, this body is not going in a wetsuit. But then I thought, yeah, but if she goes in the water, I'm going to want to go in the water. And it is going to be cold in Florida in, January. So one night I was Facebook scrolling late at night, and I saw this boot camp for a gym near my home. And I didn't even know there were any gyms near my home. Monroe Falls is a pretty small town, but it's surrounded by a lot of other large towns. So it isn't like we don't have everything we need very close by. But in Monroe Falls per se, I'm like, there's a gym in Monroe Falls, right? It said
Right.
it's for women over 50. It's a free 6-week boot camp. And I thought, you know what? I got to do something. So I joined this boot camp, and I had to go to the gym every morning at 8 o'clock. They have this weird food plan where they actually wanted me to eat way more food than I could eat. And I would say, I can't eat that much. And they're like, well, just try, and I'm like, so I lost a little bit of weight in that boot camp, but I didn't want to continue once the 6 weeks were over, because
Mhm.
it was a dude gym, it just wasn't
Right.
right.
I
So
totally understand those dude gyms. Like there's so many of them in LA and
yeah,
rah, yeah, you go in
yeah.
and you're like CrossFit and
Uh,
pumping. What do they call it? You're racked or you're what when you've got a lot of muscles. Ripped is one, but then there's another word that they all say now, and I'll come up with it. But it's a word, and I'm just like, oh gosh, that's such a dude thing to say.
yeah.
Um,
Oh
when
my
when
God.
you can I ask you before you went to this challenge and did all that stuff in that time that you were kind of gaining weight and unhappy with your job and taking care of your mom, did it ever cross your mind to try to lose weight, or were you just kind of like, I don't care, I'm just surviving, I'm just getting through?
I think I was kind of at that point because
Mhm.
losing weight was always on my mind. I think from the time I became aware that I had a body, but there were just too many other things going on. And the thing is, I had a free gym membership already at a very nice gym through free because my wife works for Cleveland Clinic, but I
Oh,
wouldn't
wow.
go because I was
Mhm.
embarrassed because I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want anybody to look at me. I don't, so I wouldn't go. So the fact I decided to do this boot camp was like freakish, you know? But then when the boot camp ended, I was like, how am I going to sustain this? And the very last day of that boot camp, this man said to me, if you leave my gym, you're never going to achieve your goals. And
Wow.
yeah, hard sell, weird, it got weird. Okay. And it was my birthday. And I'm like, you know what? You watch me.
Oh, he got your goat. He
He, he did.
That's
So the next
great.
day, I went straight to the free gym, but I was still like, how? What am I? I was kind of like, I want to do this. I don't want to give up, but I felt like I was kind of flailing, and I'm like, I need something. I need an anchor. I need. And then I was late night scrolling, and I found you, and I was literally actually okay. It wasn't late night scrolling. I was early evening scrolling. And I had already eaten a bunch of gack that day. I didn't know it was gack at the time, but now I do. And I thought,
Oh, just a minute, Julie. For anybody who doesn't know what GAC is, we just call GAC in the shift like highly unnutritious, super refined food. It's such a good word for it, GAC. Okay, keep going.
It,
Sorry.
yak is a very unappealing word. It does not sound like something you would want to eat. But I'd eaten a bunch of stuff, and I was completely in this mindset of, well, you know what? It's Sunday night. I've already blown it. I might as well just eat whatever. I mean, I was completely capable of eating a whole pint of ice cream. So who even knows what it was? Then I found you, and you literally said, like, don't start over on Monday. Just, everything that you say, I mean, you were like, I'm like, she's speaking to me. It's a sign, from the universe. And I've never signed up for anything so fast. I'm like, this woman, she knows what I'm going through. She
Oh,
gets it.
I only know because I went through it so many times myself. But yes, well, thank
Yeah.
you.
So then, so like, I feel like I did have a shift, but then I needed the shift to keep me shifting, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think what Julie's talking about is so interesting because with when people really make a change, I think the distinction was like when you went to this free, boot camp for 6 weeks, you were kind of like going and it was kind of outside of you, like, well, I'm doing this thing. And then when that guy said, you're not going to ever, lose weight unless you do this. And that seems like a really crazy, hard-edged way to enroll people in something, but whatever.
Yeah.
So it was that there. I'm always fascinated how people, so it was 6 weeks for free, but then they try to
No,
get,
it wasn't free. It said it
oh,
was free on Facebook, but then you go and there's a whole hard sell. Well, if you're not going to do this for you, do it for your loved ones. It was a
wow.
whole spiel, but where I did, it did get to me because I was so tired. Okay, I'm 5'7". I was 185, so I wasn't obese, right? I mean,
Right.
you know, but I realized I'm so tired of. I realized how much I thought about being overweight. It was always like, what could I wear that would hide this? What could I wear if I'm
Mm.
going to go out to eat so that I'll be comfortable, so that I can eat, but I can breathe? It was the mindless going to the refrigerator. It was just, and I realized I was so tired of all of it. And
Mm.
when that guy talked to me that day, I was there for like an hour. I thought, I've got to do something. And I was just ready to do something crazy. And it was not free at all. How they get away with saying it's free. And the
Yeah.
funny little afterthought is, after I told my daughter what had happened. She was livid. She went on their Facebook page and she was like, how dare you say that to my mom?
Well, I'm glad. Oh, isn't she a sweet daughter standing up for you?
Yeah.
I love it. But what I was going to say is in that moment, it went from like being something outside of you to inside of you. Like you made a decision and you
Yeah.
kind of took responsibility for yourself, like
Yeah.
said, this is my journey. I'm going to make it happen. And that is such a huge shift. Like that's the number one step is to stop looking outside of yourself and say, no matter what, I know you signed up for the shift, but I mean, like you made that decision within yourself, like, I'm going to do something, I'm going to take control.
Yeah. Exactly. And there was no going back. I was like, you know what? It's not ever going to get any easier. I'm sick of this. I have to do something. And it did. It felt like, I mean, like I literally shifted into a slightly different person in that moment. My wife, she's, we're very supportive of each other, but I've always professed how much I hate going to the gym.
Right. Does she go to the gym?
Well, she did. She was an athlete,
Uh-huh.
but she
Oh, wow.
had some health challenges, so it's a little bit harder for her to go to the gym right now than it used to be. But in the course of our relationship, she would always be the one who was like, "Come on, let's go to the gym," and I'd be like, "No, I'm gonna stay home and have a cocktail."
So would you say, because I'm curious about your relationship in that, did you guys kind of struggle together prior? Because like a lot of relationships kind of feed into each other, or was she, oh, yes, you're
No,
nodding your head.
we completely enabled each other. We both have the same issues with, food, I mean, and sugar. In the morning, one of us could say, you know what, that's it, we're just going to eat salads, we're not going to do this anymore. And then in the evening, one person could say, you know what, we should get ice cream. and the other person will be right on board.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yes. The mutual saboteurs. I love
Yep.
it. So were you both, so it was, you were both kind of like, today we're going to be good. Tonight we're going to be bad. Today we're going to be good. Tonight we're going to be
Uh-huh.
bad, and off and
Yep.
on. And okay. So
Yep.
many relationships have that. That's just such a huge thing. And I think there's fear too. And I don't know if your wife sounds incredibly supportive, but sometimes spouses will be afraid if you're like going on a transformational journey that you're going to leave them in the dust. Did you
Hmm.
sense that with your wife, or was she cool and always supportive? It seems like
I've
she's very supportive, but do you think
I've always been
sense?
that the one that's like, ugh, you're gonna leave me behind. Fine.
Mm,
I've always been that one to be more like almost threatened or jealous of, because she had the more athletic, tendencies and would want to go to the gym more. And but there definitely was a point where I was moving along in the shift and in my weight loss journey, and she wasn't. And she
mm,
started to feel the way that it was always me feeling before, like,
mm.
you're losing so much weight. And that, I tried not to be all in your face, like, guess what I weigh now, because you that can get really annoying, right? I mean, if you're not
Right.
losing weight too, then you're like, yeah, great. I'm so happy for you. But then she started shifting too. So
Yeah.
now we're both, and you say something and about don't buy gack for your family members or something, and she'd say, I'm not eating chips anymore. Well, we both like sweets, but her thing was always like chips. Like she could eat a whole bag of chips. And she has high blood pressure and high cholesterol, and that's
Oh,
a
wow.
really
Okay.
bad thing to be doing. And she'd
Mhm.
say, don't buy me any more chips. And then I'd be at the store because I do most of the shopping, and she'd text me, please get me a bag of chips. I don't care what I said before. So
It's
now we're
hard.
both being good. Now we're not bringing that stuff into the
Right.
house.
Because are creating a way of eating as a couple that works for both of you and allows you
Mm-hmm.
to live your life. I don't think it's about deprivation, but obviously you're both on a transformational journey.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I am curious about hypnosis because obviously Shift is a 30-day hypnosis-based program. Had you ever done any sort of hypnosis prior to this process?
No, not really. No, but I had always been interested in it. I was like a psych major, so I've always been interested in, the workings of the mind. And, I knew that that it had never been put to me that there was an inner critic, an inner rebel, and an inner coach. But my inner critic and the inner rebel, they were going hard,
Yeah.
So I thought, I mean, I'm like, I'm going to try anything. I don't know what this
Mm,
hypnosis is going to be like, but it sounds amazing. And I remember one of the things in the hypnosis was I'm 100% successful at weight release. And I would
mhm.
walk my jog and just say that over and over and over again in the very beginning of shifting.
You were doing self-hypnosis. I love it.
I
Yeah.
was, and I'm like, if
Yeah.
I say this enough, I'm going to believe it. And
Well,
it
I
works
think,
though, it works.
well, what it does is, we talk a lot about this in our monthly program, but also in the shift is that you start, everything starts with identity. And we start to cultivate a different identity, how we see ourselves in our mind. So we're not working against ourselves. It's like we're creating this new idea of ourselves. So doing that kind of stuff, those mantras, what you were saying, it's very powerful because it helps reinforce that identity you're stepping into and strengthening. So very good. Um, and you weren't afraid of hypnosis. You weren't
No,
concerned about, floating off in the cloud or anything
no,
like
I
that.
wasn't at all. I've always used like, um, you know, sleepy music, I call it, like music to help myself fall asleep, Native American flute or Zen spot, whatever,
Oh,
for
yeah.
as long as I can remember, I would put that kind of music on and it would help me fall asleep. And then so did, the shift hypnosis. A lot of times I would fall asleep, but I didn't worry about that. I thought, well, you said it's getting into your subconscious mind
Yeah,
anyway.
you can
So,
go deep and it's still getting in. So
mhm.
yeah, yeah, and it can be very, very relaxing. Um, and so how about the experience of going through the process? Like you signed up and what was that like for you? Because there was, you were going through hypnosis, you were doing daily meditations, and how did you, make it all work within your life? How did,
So I did the 30 days was so structured that it
Mhm.
was, I know there were a couple of days that I probably missed and then I would just go
Mhm.
back and listen.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that hard to do the 15 minutes in the morning and the 15 minutes at night. And, um, I looked forward to hearing all of the sessions.
Mm.
And I I don't work full time. I have a friend that I take care of who has leukemia. And so
Oh, I'm
I wasn't
sorry.
trying oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. She's great. It was it wasn't like I was trying to work this in around like a full time, I'm stuck at a desk kind of job, but it is challenging because most of the stuff one of the main things I do for her is cook. And
Mm.
sometimes, so she struggles with gaining weight. So a lot of times, because she's trying to gain weight, she's like, all right, today I want you to make an apple pie. And I need you to go get me some ice cream. And, so even though
Wow.
yeah, it's hard to cook and not taste,
Yeah.
so that's a challenge that, some days it's still a challenge, but uh, it's because I don't plan. Okay, how do I want to say this? This is so important to me that not going to let anything sabotage this. So,
Yeah.
you
Well, I
know,
think that's, go
if I
ahead.
taste some of what I make for her, I track it. I write it down. Those
Yeah.
calories, they all count.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do because I like love myself enough to do this now. And my inner coach is there and she's like, I can have a conversation with her. And the inner rebel doesn't, she has calmed down a lot and she doesn't like win. She's not fighting.
Well, I think where you're at, and there's, you know, the weight mastery journey, it's a journey, right? And you've begun the
Yeah.
journey and you're into the journey. And what Julie's talking about is this cultivation of a conversation, talking to this other part of you that is on your team, advocating for you and believes in you. Because when like you were saying earlier, when you were struggling, it was just the critic and the rebel. Critic beats you up about your behaviors, doesn't believe in you, disrespects you. And then the rebel's like, well, screw it, life's too short. Let's eat apple pie.
Yeah.
I think it's not about not eating apple pie. Obviously, you can, choose to eat
Right.
apple pie. I think and still release weight, and still it's not about no, saying no to everything that you
Mm-mm.
used to say yes to. But I think w- when we go on this journey, people start to see that it's not just about weight, it's about freedom. And that sometimes when we eat, like, too much apple pie, like we start to eat over, and we talk about this a lot in the shift, is like, it's not like you can't eat it, but if you're going to eat too much of it, it starts to engage your brain in a different way. And then you become the victim of it rather than being able to like manage it. Right. And I
Yes.
think the longer you're on this journey, the more you define those boundaries for yourself and honor them without feeling
Mhm.
a struggle. So it's not like oh, I'm a victim and I have to say no and I can't eat the pie. It's like, well, I can eat a
Right.
couple of bites and I can be cool with that. And then I can get on with my day and not feel
Yeah.
owned by it.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that's one of the biggest things about this program is that I do feel like I can eat anything I want. If somebody said you sorry, no more chocolate. That I would not have been able to. I've been doing this since September. So what is that, 5 months now or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never been able to be consistent with anything long enough to get these kind of results. Because as soon as somebody's like, you can't have that anymore, no more sugar, then what's your brain thinking? Oh yeah, but I need some sugar. But
Oh,
knowing this
right.
is one of my things that I do. I know that I like chocolate and I don't want to give it up. And if I thought I had to, I this would be hard. So I have this little tiny Tupperware container. It holds 15 grams of Ghirardelli dark chocolate chips. And I
Oh, wow.
know that's my chocolate for the day.
Yeah.
And some days I don't even have it.
Right.
But if I want I have these little brain mind tricks that, I've come up with that work for me though.
Yeah.
And that's one of them. Some people probably, maybe they couldn't start eating any chocolate. Maybe that would, it depends what your triggers are, right?
For sure. You're right. Some
Yeah.
people can't. And some people, it will depend on what time of day. If you eat the chocolate on an empty stomach, that might trigger them. But if you eat it after dinner, it might not, because it
Mm-hmm.
just is going to impact your brain and body differently. But for a lot of people, I think that little amount of chocolate chips, I was just talking to another client over the weekend, and she was saying gets this coconut sweetened chocolate chips, and it's just like enough for her to, and it's like, if you're mindful about it and slow down and eat it, then it's
Yeah.
plenty, and you get to feel like you're really treating yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
dark chocolate like that, it's not bad for you. So I mean, yeah, exactly, you get to own what you eat. You get to choose. This is really about cultivating a way of eating that you love, that allows you to live at your ideal weight. So you're figuring that out. That takes time too.
Yeah.
It's not overnight, like you're like, oh, I've got a way of eating that I love that allows me to live in my ideal weight. Well, no, it's a journey. But it sounds like you've had a lot of aha moments along the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot
How
of it
much?
is,
Okay, go ahead.
no, you go, you go.
I was just going to ask you how much weight you've released. I know I will have said this probably already in our intro, but just tell our listeners so
Just
they
about
can like,
35 pounds.
right. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
that's a
started at
significant amount.
55. Yeah. And I'm at about, 151 was the lowest I've been so far. And it fluctuates.
Yes, of course it does.
I'm like 151, between 151 and 153, which is, I weighed 150 in high school. And that's just insane that
Ha ha ha.
I'm I'm buying size 14s. I was an 18 and I was a 1X, and I'm buying 14 pants and they're kind of loose, and I'm buying medium and large shirts instead of X. And at first it was a little bit, almost, I was like, I don't know if I should really buy this, because what if this okay, this is an important thing I wanted to say. There's been another shift. There's shifts within the shift. So I've had a
Yeah,
shift to now where it's like I don't have this fear that I'm gonna like relapse into, fat thinking again. I feel like I've been doing it long enough and I trust myself. That's been huge. Like I trust myself that even if I'm in a situation like yesterday, I was at my friend loves to throw these tea parties, and it's like a full on, probably 10 course high British tea, right? And she did this in honor of a friend who she took care of, who died a year ago. So it was course after course after course. And I wish that I could have just had the salad and the chicken pot pie, right? But we didn't know what was coming. And
right.
so, it was it was just a sea of cute little delicious foods being sat in front of me all afternoon. And
It's a challenge.
you say this in the hypnosis, but you're satisfied with less. And when you start to feel full, you stop. And that is how I feel now. Like
Right.
so I would taste things. I would just taste things. And I got rid of the bread from like the little finger sandwiches and things like that. And I was like, you know what? This isn't how I eat now. I would have rather just had the salad and the chicken pot pie and nothing else. But that didn't come out until the very, very end. But
Mm,
even in a situation like that, like I could trust myself, and I was 3,000 calories under for the week.
Wow. Good,
Which
good for you.
it's not like I'm trying to be that far under, but what happens is because I now love to exercise, I really, really do, especially in the morning, you start the day with negative 500 calories and you're like, wow, it's like magic.
What do you like to do? What do you do at the gym? Do you go to
I
the
like
gym or do you just go out and
I
walk?
go to the gym. So I do walk my dog. My dog loves, she's a husky mix, and she loves a good 2 mile walk. So I'll either take her around
Mm.
the neighborhood, or I'll take her into the woods. We live near, right in the middle of a lot of national parks here in Ohio. It's really beautiful. So there's
Wow.
great hiking 5 minutes from home, and we do it year round. We had a 70-degree day in Ohio in March, which is like crazy. But
Unbelievable.
I like going to classes at the gym because I
Mhm.
like somebody to tell me what to do. And it's like, I know all I have to do is show up, and for 45 minutes, they're going to tell me what to do. um, so it's like, wait, a lot of what I do is like strength training classes, but it's to music, and the instructors make it really fun. And there's a variety of instructors at the gym I go to, and they all have a slightly different personality and a slightly different way that they push you. And so, yeah, if
That's
I'm very protective of my workout time. I don't like to miss it.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I am a fan of classes as well because when you're busy and you running around, it's just nice to go have somebody else tell you what to do for an hour.
It really
You
is.
don't have to think that hard.
You don't have to think at all.
Um, but that's amazing. And where in Ohio is your town? Is it near Cleveland? Is it northern
Yeah,
Ohio?
Northeast Ohio. So we're about 45 minutes south of Cleveland. We're right by Kent State University.
Okay.
Um,
That must be
yeah,
very pretty around there.
it really is. Yeah, very, very pretty, especially in the spring and summer. Well, and the
Yeah.
fall, when the trees are bare, not so much. But, as a Los Angelian, having lived here for this long, it was very hard to get used to. But the winters aren't bad anymore. So,
I've heard that in a scary way.
yeah,
And my husband's from Buffalo, and he said
okay.
he went back a few years ago to visit his hometown, and he was telling these people, it's like, oh yeah, I learned to drive on snowy roads. It was always snowy. It was literally that, and they're like, well, it's not like that anymore. The winters aren't that bad.
They're
The winters
not.
aren't cold, and yeah, so. Everybody's going to be moving to Ohio. It's the new LA. It's the new
No,
Southern California.
I think it is. My brother and his wife actually want to get out of Southern California, and they're considering moving here. They're
Yeah,
considering
yeah,
moving to Columbus, which is a little further from where I live, but I think it would have more of what they're used to. It's a more kind of modern city with a lot more shopping options and a Trader Joe's, on every corner. We have to drive
right.
a half an hour to get to Trader Joe's. So
Wow. You're just so deprived out there in the
I know
country.
we are. There used to be one
Uh,
on every corner.
I know. Oh gosh, in LA, that's for sure. I know LA as far as healthy eating, it's probably one of the easiest cities to live in, I would say.
Yes, absolutely. That was a challenge when I very first moved here. It was,
Yeah.
yeah. You can't get a
It
carrot
seems
juice, fresh carrot juice at 2 o'clock in the morning here, like
Right,
you
you
can't.
can't. But I was in Cleveland last year, and I will say, and it was the first time I was ever in Ohio. And we were looking at a school for my son, and I was surprised. Like, there's some great restaurants. There's a lot. Like, changed. It's definitely not LA. It's
Yeah,
definitely more. Like you are navigating through a lot of gack, but uh, I was surprised that there were a lot of healthy options
yeah,
as
yeah,
well. For
yeah.
sure.
It's
Yeah,
pretty
but
good.
it is, yeah. Well, and it was, and this time of year we were there, and you guys were starting to get daffodils and the little flowers coming up out of the ground. So it was very pretty. So, when you, uh, when, since you mentioned your partner is now, your wife is doing the shift, right now.
Mhm.
how has that changed your relationship and how, like how has that? Because I think a lot of our listeners would love to enroll their significant other in being healthy. And
Mhm,
it sounds like she kind of got in the game. You kind of modeled great
mhm,
behavior for her, and then she got inspired by that. Is that
mhm.
correct?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
you didn't have to drag her in kicking and screaming into this?
She had some resistance. She was saying, I don't, counting calories isn't what's going to work for me, and she
Yeah.
would say things like that. And I thought, well, I didn't push more. I,
Yeah.
like you said, I modeled, I set an example. And then as I started to release the weight and she was seeing the results, and I just kind of gently would kind of just make gentle suggestions. Also, I do most of the shopping, so I would prep. We like to do food prep, and
Oh,
um,
you do.
so I make a lot. We'll make salads. We'll make like 3 days worth of salads for each of us, and so that made it easy. But she was putting a lot of things on her salad, like I don't know, like I was shocked to find out how many calories there are in like nuts, right? So there's
Yeah.
and cheese and all these things. When you start looking at it, it's shocking. I
It is
There's a restaurant,
shocking.
a Mediterranean restaurant near us, and they have this chicken curry roll. And that's what I would almost always order. And I went there and I ordered and I didn't look ahead. It was very, very early in the shift. And I thought, well, I'll get that for lunch. I looked later. There was 1,200 calories in this one roll.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's almost my whole day. So so she was like, do you think I could, look at your shift materials? And I thought, yeah, that'd be okay. She's like, I don't feel right about it unless you ask Rita if it's okay, because she's a content creator for she's an online learning designer for Cleveland Clinic. She designs medical education,
That
and
is
so
amazing.
she's like, copyright and protective of,
Right.
and when
Right.
I reached out to you and you said, well, you can share it with her, well, then that changed everything, because then she's like, okay, if Rita says it's okay, because she's a very ethical person.
I love
So
how ethical she is. That's so
I
sweet.
know. So once she had that green light,
Go ahead.
she was in there and just, and she'll ask me things. It's fun because I kind of get to be a coach for her. She'll say, well, what if I missed a day? And I'm like, it's okay. Just listen to it tomorrow. I definitely, and this is something I wanted to say too, I did not do the shift perfectly. There were
Yeah.
definitely times when I got off track. It's just that I didn't stay off track. And that was
Yeah.
the difference, you know? And so I
Well,
would just tell her, just don't give up. Keep going.
that is the muscle that you have to develop is keep going. And I think, people always bemoan because we are so immersed and steeped in the diet culture that even if you're in this program that is like we say, please be imperfect, and you're going to start over, you're not start over, but you're going to get back on track. Yay, you have to get back on track. Like when people say, oh gosh, I had a really bad day and I got to, you know, everything went south. It's just like, what did you learn? What are you going to do tomorrow?
Mhm.
And in so retraining your mind. Now, Julie is mentioning counting calories. So for those of you who are like counting calories, but we are really using it from a cognitive perspective. And I think what Julie was talking about is like the salads, for instance. I think uh, we use data and tracking to get really clear on one, how much our body really needs in order to be at our ideal weight. And so that makes you the boss of it. It's not somebody saying, eat this many calories per day, but it's
Yeah.
like you get to choose what you're doing. It puts you kind of in the driver's seat. And it also gives you clarity because so many people are like, well, I'm eating salads and I'm doing this and I'm not losing weight. And when you start to tune in to what you're eating, what it does in your body, and the energy amounts that things come up, people, once they get clear, there's so much calm around it that people are like, it makes me go crazy to do that and to track. But it's like there is the way we use it, it creates power and calm. And what you were saying about salads, I just had to say this because many people, like especially in the beginning, like I've been doing this 22 years, people would talk about salads. I'm eating salads. Why am I not losing weight? I was like, I would say, remove the lettuce from the salad and look at what else is left on your plate and really look at it like, is that, and often what was left, at a restaurant salad, because it cracks me up. There are usually, unless you get the garden salad, most of those salads, if you took away the lettuce or the arugula or whatever
Yeah.
the base is, it's candied nuts and it's big hunks of cheese and it's
Yes.
cranberries,
Blue
sweet
cheese
and
dressing.
cranberries
And
and
yeah.
dressing and it ends up being more calories. I used to do these seminars and I would have these slideshows and it was really fun because you would show like the amount of calories in like a like a pasta puttanesca. And maybe it would be like 600 or 700 calories. And then I say, and here is the shift salad or the whatever salad. And it's like 850 calories. And people are like, like
Uh-huh.
but yeah. So our idea of what is so often gets really warped and tracking and just doing it in a very scientific way where we aren't punitive, where it isn't this idea of like there's so much shame in dieting and this like calorie counting and it's this like this person like a bean counter counting. It's not like that at all. It's like powerfully
No.
using
Yeah.
data to make
It,
decisions about
yeah,
your body.
exactly. It exactly makes me feel calm. It's just information
Yeah,
and it gives me power. It puts me back in control and I can make the choices. And the way I think of it is it's my checking account, you know? If I had to
exactly.
go shopping and I had no idea how much money was in the account, I wouldn't that would make me crazy. I wouldn't know, you know?
Right.
And so I know like and it's science, based, it's not based on, like you said, some random person telling you eat 800 calories a day. It's based on your body and your age and how much you need to release. And all those things are taken into account so that it's customized, like basically to your,
Well, yeah. And if
your
you're
needs.
fasting and doing fasting, it works with that. It works with
Mm-hmm.
if you're whatever your thing is, you can make it your own.
Yeah.
But yeah, so cool. So talk to us just a little more because it sounds like you and your inner coach are in like a little love affair and you're having a great time with your inner coach. Um, if somebody was out there and so I have one last question, but I want to just so with regards to your relationship, it sounds like you guys are now kind of on the same team. It took her a little while, but she's on board.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And
And she's
uh
releasing weight now too.
oh, that's awesome. I'm really glad to hear that. Do you guys go work out together or is that kind of your doing your own thing?
That's well because her work schedule is so intense.
Okay.
And I like to go work out in the morning, so I'm really blessed that I have that luxury to go work out in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I like
There
to
were
make a lot of food
does she
for
work
her.
out at lunch or in the evening or
No, she's just starting to. She's had like some heart concerns and
oh,
stuff,
okay. So she's
so
not
she's
moving too much, which is fine. You can still
not
release
too much.
weight and
But
yeah,
she
you
is
can still
walking the
release.
dog. She has resumed walking the dog, and now the dog is getting 2 walks per day, and so she's delighted.
The dog is shifting.
The dog is shift. Actually, we have a cat that needs to shift. I think you saw my cat,
Oh my gosh,
Jasper, pawing at
that
the refrigerator.
Julie posted in our we have this monthly membership and she posted the most adorable. How much does your cat weigh?
He's 20 pounds, and the vet wants him down to
It's
16.
so
He's
cute.
so big.
And he literally is the most hilarious footage you caught. Like you caught the poor guy, he was like sniffing around on the ground. He couldn't find anything. And then he just literally goes up to the refrigerator and starts like furiously, like he's going to be able to claw his way in. Oh, poor guy.
He is such a trip. He's a hoot. He's really a fun cat, but he
So
needs to
he's
lose
been on a
too.
bit of a diet. And
He's
so now he's
shifting. Yeah.
clawing at, yeah, he's clawing at the refrigerator. That's so funny. So So this has been really inspirational, and thank you for coming on. So I want to hear from you, like, what would be that one? Uh, well, we were talking about something earlier. Two things. So I said one thing, but two things because I wanted to ask you about this, Julie. Is you have shifted, and in doing so, it's made you bold. It's
Mhm.
given you like the idea of taking more risks with yourself, like being on camera,
Yeah.
like, but also you were talking about creating podcasts, writing a book, like those are things maybe wouldn't have been going on in your mind had you the inner critic that would say, you can't do that.
Yeah, that imposter syndrome, like, well, why would anybody want to like listen to what you would say in a podcast or a book and so I did a challenge online and you had to post in the Facebook group each day she would give you a dare. It's called Do the Thing and she would give you a dare and you could just write your answer or you could do a video. And I decided to do a video because I don't feel like I mean, I look thinner on camera now, and I know I probably wouldn't have done the video prior to that. And because I did this video, I got a lot of feedback from her because I wanted to start a podcast talking about um, kind of like the hidden gifts in like loss, because I lost both my parents during the pandemic, and there were like so many transformations that happened. And yeah, it was sad and it was hard and it was loss and it was, insanity in the middle of the pandemic. Then all of these positive things came out of it too. And I thought, well, you know what? I never thought I could lose 35 pounds. If I can do that, why not? And then I started getting all this validation from the universe, right? This woman saying, "You've got to start a podcast." I'd thought about starting a podcast before, but I was like, yeah, that inner critic would just shoot it down. My whole life, the inner critic would just shoot it down, and then the inner rebel would be like, "Well, let's eat, drink, and be merry." And they had this thing going back and forth, and I couldn't even hear an inner coach. And then I really did start to hear her. And I don't know if you've seen the movie Naiad, but
Not yet. No, I
oh,
haven't.
it's really good. It's really good. Anyway, Jodie Foster is the coach for Diane Naiad, right? And when you said pick a character from a movie, I was
Mhm.
like, Jodie Foster is going to be my inner coach
I
from
love
Naiad.
it.
She would be saying, "You got this, babe. You got this. You got this." So yeah.
I
Anyway,
love it. You have Jodie Foster on your team. That's
I
amazing.
do.
So what would be the first step? Like if somebody was listening to you right now and going, gosh, this all sounds really good, but what would be, you know, your advice to somebody who is kind of feeling struggling as far as the first step that they would take to move on their journey?
Oh, good question. Like if they hadn't signed up for the shift yet, I would tell them to
Yeah.
definitely do that. But
Okay.
if you're talking about like, I have always been a journaler. And
Mhm.
when I really wanted to, really kind of get clear on this stuff, that's what I was doing. I was
Mm.
writing because I was writing this memoir, trying to write this memoir. And one night I caught myself sitting downstairs in front of the TV, thinking to myself, why aren't you writing your book? And just eating, just mindlessly shoving food into my mouth. And I literally heard this, I'm eating my words. And I thought, I don't want to eat my words anymore. Why am I doing this? So I started, that was the theme of this series of journal entries that I made. And, it really gave me this clarity that, like, I'm beating myself up with food because I'm not doing the thing that I want to do. And then the more I do this, the worse I feel and the less likely I am to do it. And I'm like, I don't, I just, so I got clear by journaling about it and realizing that I was literally eating my words and that I didn't want to do that anymore.
Wow. Great advice. Thank you,
Hmm.
Julie, for coming on and being on the Then Thinking podcast. This has been
Thank
very
you.
inspiring.
Thank you so much for inviting me. That really means a lot. I was happy to do it.
Well, terrific. Well, thank you. And we'll look forward to having you back and hearing more about your podcast when it's all ready.
Great. Thank you. All right.
Thank you so much, Julie. I hope those of you who maybe have someone who is a bit resistant to change around the home got some inspiration around Julie's share and some ideas about how to get them on board with you. And remember, the final days of the free masterclass are coming up in, I mean, literally, if it probably, if it's past April 20th, don't go to the show notes for that, but definitely go to the show notes to learn more about the Shift Weight Mastery process. And there will also be a free masterclass in there for you to sign up, but I'm not quite sure which one. So I won't say which, but check it out. Go to the show notes and find some lovin's there for you. All right. And remember, most importantly, the key and probably the only key to unlocking the door of the weight struggle is inside you. So keep listening and find it. And I will be back with you here next week. I can't wait. Do you want to dive deeper into the mindset of long-term weight release? Head on over to www.shiftweightmastery.com. That's www.shiftweightmastery.com, where you'll find numerous tools and resources to help you unlock your mind for permanent weight release, tips, strategies, and more. And be sure to check the show notes to learn more about my book, From Fat to Thin Thinking, Unlock Your Mind for Permanent Weight Loss.